You are the latest in our terrific business of reporting and information in the NFL to say this phrase, and I'm going to put it in front of you because I think you're the perfect person to put some meat on these bones. You say that Aaron Rodgers could be traded by the Packers because they have a different approach this offseason with Jordan Love being as developed as he is, and Rodgers potentially being ripe for moving on because he needs to prove that he's all in. I've heard that over and over and over again. The implication is when you hear like if he's all in, the Packers are all in with him. What is not being all in, right? Like what does that mean all in? What form does not all in potentially take with Aaron Rodgers, Albert Breer?
Well, I think you have to remember, like, there are a lot of people in that Packers organization who've been there long enough to remember what it was like in 2008. And remember what those years were like before 2008 when they were waiting for Brett Favre to either come back off the tractor or not come back off the tractor in Mississippi, And, eventually they got to the point where, it was like, we want a quarterback who's going to be around. We want a guy who's going to be locked in, who's, going to be developing chemistry with our younger players and leading us through some of the off-season work. It doesn't mean you have to be there every day. It's a bigger ask, obviously, for guys to be in Green Bay, Wisconsin than it is, per se, like the Dolphins coach asked for their players to stay in Miami, in the off-season. But, I think that there's that piece of it, like where 2 years ago, they were waiting all the way up till the first day of training camp and kind of held hostage by it. Last year, there was obviously no Aaron Rodgers for most of, and I can't remember if it was most or all of the off-season program, but he wasn't really around, and so like I think that's part of it is, where you going to be around to develop chemistry with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and are you going to come back in the best shape of your life? All of that stuff. So, I think that's definitely a piece of all of this. Where what the Packers are trying to do aligns with what Rodgers is trying to do and trying to accomplish, and we've seen it before, Rich, like where Brady had like a incredible sense of urgency when he got to Tampa, and where Brett Favre had an incredible sense of urgency when he got to Minnesota. Can you have that same sense of urgency if you are coming back to the same place, or does everybody need to change the scenery? I think that's sort of the best way I can illustrate the way that at least I see it based on what I know.
Albert Breer here on the Rich Eisen Show. So they're waiting for Rodgers. Is he the first domino to fall? Because Derek Carr doesn't have to wait, and teams don't have to wait for Rodgers to sign him either. So what's the deal there?
Yeah, and I think, honestly, I think there's, put it this way, there's very strong interest between the Jets and Carr. And I do think, I know when they've met and they've talked over the course of the last 6-7 days, there's been an understanding there that Derek Carr wants to take his time and he wants to investigate all of his options. And, he may want to take another visit or two. And I think the Jets have been very upfront that they're looking at the entire quarterback market, and that includes Aaron Rodgers, and so, could it get to the point where the Jets, are able to siphon information where it's like, well, Rodgers doesn't want to go there, and maybe that accelerates something where Carr's the first domino? Certainly something like that could fall. And I'm not saying, by the way, I'll make this clear, that Rodgers has said that about the Jets at all, but I'm just kind of trying to paint the scenario where Carr could be the first domino to fall. I think there's an assumption that Rodgers is going to be the first one to fall because he's the big one, right? And so there are teams, there are teams out there that are waiting on him. But you're right. If a team or two gets the sense, we're not going to be in it for Rodgers or, say, Lamar Jackson over the course of the next few days while everyone's here in Indianapolis, well, then that team could certainly move on Derek Carr a little faster than maybe they were last week.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.